If you have ever wondered why it is that middle management kind of get a raw deal, then this is the show for you. Did you know that 82% of middle managers are unsung heroes? They're also unhappy, they feel unwanted, and they feel invisible. This may also apply to you. So make sure that you are paying attention to this show. It goes out to all the HR directors, all the people who are CEOs running an organization that they want to grow, to anybody who's feeling stuck, and anybody who goes to work every day and sees their boss feeling like the world has just disappeared right in front of them, and you're wondering what's gone wrong. I'm going to show you what's gone wrong and how to fix it on this show. Wow, coming to the right place, just at the right time. This is Speak on Stage. Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and packed with valuable insights to help you to amplify your presence on stage too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more aspiring speakers just like yourself. Remember, the stage is your platform to shine, and with the right tools and mindset, you can captivate any audience anywhere. So keep honing your craft, refining your message, and never shy away from the spotlight. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of public speaking and performance. Until then, keep speaking, keep shining, and keep making an impact. This is Dave Crane signing off. See you next time on Speak on Stage. And as if by magic, my book appears. Have you seen it? Here we go. It's available now on Amazon. And you're thinking, Dave, I want that book. Well, so you should. You should buy yourself a special gift for New Year, or if you're celebrating the festive season, or you're giving it to a friend, then it's essential reading for anybody. It's a really thick book who wants to be able to raise their game and position themselves at the very best in what they do. And you're thinking, Dave, how do we get access to it? Funny you should ask. This is how you do it. Scan this QR code, and you can see it there. If you're listening to the audio one, I'll tell you where to go. Go to www.bit.ly, that's bit.ly, /Thought Leaders Playbook. That's bit.ly /Thought Leaders Playbook. And that takes you to Amazon, where you can buy your copy of it just in time for Christmas, New Year, or when your New Year's resolutions stop working and you're going, oh my goodness, everything's fallen to bits. I joined the gym, I had such good intentions and nothing's happened. Well, that's the way it works if you don't actually do all the heavy lifting, which is to plan your goals effectively. We'll talk about that another time. In fact, we'll talk about it during this session, because I think a lot of it will have an impact on what you feel and what you need to do. So if you just joined us, this is today's session, and we're talking about that. You've already seen the picture, and if you listen to the podcast, you've seen nothing. But if you're watching it on Amazon, or you're watching it, not on Amazon, on Apple iTunes, or on Spotify, then you're going, oh, I've seen the picture, Dave. So everybody else who hasn't, then now you can. So today it's asking a big question: why 82% of middle managers feel unhappy and unwanted and invisible? And there's a survey from an article which I'll tell you about in a moment. By the way, welcome to Speak on Stage. This is a regular podcast that we do, and if you haven't got all the subscriptions done, then go to wherever you found this and subscribe. There are lots of episodes covering all sorts of areas of self-improvement, personal branding, speaking, and sometimes just fun with some hypnosis shows on there as well, which you can enjoy, especially around about Christmas. It's good. Just go to Speak on Stage and you'll find everything. And we have big plans coming up for you in the coming year or so. If you don't know what they are, then you'll have to keep watching to find out. Yeah, you will. That's what surprise is. If I told you, it wouldn't be surprising anymore, but it is very cool. So let's go back to this. 82% of middle managers feel unwanted and invisible, and nobody cares and nobody talks about it, but they take up a large part of the workforce. So let's talk about being a middle manager. What does that mean? Well, in the army, it would probably be looking at a sergeant major, somebody who's in charge of all the troops, gets everything done, everyone reports to them, but the senior decision makers only inform them when they need to know. They're never invited to the top table, but just instructed on what the top table has chosen to decide is the way forward. And they have to go and deal with all the troops, all the problems, all the challenges. They've got to use kindness, they've got to use leadership, they've got to use a firm hand. You know, you can't use that in your office. It will get you sacked, whoever you are. We don't do that anymore. Well, you shouldn't do. And so the big problem is they kind of like dig themselves into a really good position, and then people don't want to promote them. They don't want to do a lot of things, and it makes it really difficult. You may have already experienced this, by the way. It comes from this article, which I'm going to share with you right now. So this is on, in fact, I should tell you where it is, but I'm not going to. Maybe I'll put it into the comments section of this. So this article is on Fast Company, and it says exactly 82% of middle managers feel invisible, and here's why. It's a fascinating read. It came out yesterday or the day before, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I've been working on. I've been working on ways of creating better communication and positioning people so they can fast track through their company much easier. Because if they feel disengaged and they're working so hard, they just don't stay productive anymore, or they leave. And you go, but these guys were great, they never said anything. No, because nobody's listening. That's why it's really important that you listen and you understand what's going on now. I hope that kind of makes sense to you. If it does make sense, it will do, because I'm going to continue with this whole theme. So, why are your managers unhappy and unmotivated? Let's look at the different reasons. First of all, did you know that only 6.25% of middle managers reach B-suite? What's B-suite, Dave? B-suite is, you know, C-suite is all the CEOs and COOs and CMOs, all these people who are owning divisions, and they run lots of stuff. We've got an office full of people that runs lots of different divisions and stuff like that. So very important people. And they're on the top table. So we go to regular meetings where everybody wears a tie. Right. And the coffee is really expensive. Well, it should be. B-suite is the really important role just below them. So if you're B-suite, it means actually that you're in a position where you are the bridge between the C-suite and the troops. So you do a job that's really important, you recognize as being really important, and the odds are, if you keep doing it as well as you're doing, you'll be groomed, in the old way of saying groomed, not the kind of pervy way that people talk about it now. You would be fast-tracked and trained and motivated to become a C-suite later on. Doesn't always happen to everybody, but that's generally where you look. You look at the B-suite to promote to the C-suite. But only 6% of middle managers get to actually be in that position. How can this happen? Well, the problem is you create a rod for your own back. Let me explain. First of all, with number 2 on this list, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we'll ignore the order. So if you're listening to it, you're going, Dave, I'm writing it down. Well, you're driving. Don't write it down and drive. I'm in the back seat. Why are you in the back seat? I've got a chauffeur. Well, why, if you got all that money, are you not just looking at the video? Because I don't want to. I don't like your face. Your beard looks weird. It reminds me of Santa Claus. Okay. Moving on. Number 2. Lack of recognition, the contributions that you make, the job you do. People don't see it because they're not looking at it. You spend a lot of time with individuals. You spend a lot of time talking about things that most people don't know about the conversations because they're private. You don't write them down. You don't do a report on everybody. So if you get pulled up by a member of staff, or you see somebody looking really upset and you think, I want to spend some time with this person, find out what's going on, find a story and see if we can fix it for them, then that's something that doesn't normally get reported. Why should it be? Because it happens all the time, so frequently, and it's part of your job description. But anything else that you've done, like when you produce something and it hits all the targets, it's actually quite rare that the organization turns around and singles you out as a big hitter. Why? Because it's your job. You get paid to do it. So why should you get special treatment? It wasn't just you, it was everybody else. So you kind of feel like you're part of the troops and you kind of look like your management, but you're not really either. Because troops will talk to each other. I'm using an army analogy, I don't mean to. Any corporate organization where you've got the staff will talk to each other without talking to the manager a lot of the time. Because if you kind of like allow yourself to not be a management person, then the odds are that you will be seen as not respectable. And they will just not look up to you and will bypass you. So you've got this really weird position where you've got to be important and also connected, but also able to be used as a stepping stone to send messages above you. But the problem is, if you're not being recognized, those messages are falling on deaf ears. Let's investigate further. So number 3 is this: no growth plan. Basically, it's unclear what's going to happen next. If only 6.25%, and let's just call it like 6.25%, reach the B suite, which is where you really want to be if you want to promote yourself and then get seen and recognized, then there's no way that you're going to be able to feel motivated beyond getting paid and loving your job. You're not going to feel, where is this going? Now, that might seem okay because, you've just got the job and it's okay and you're wondering how it fits in. But after a period of time of just treading water, staying afloat, seeing lots of people get bonuses and yours is more or less the same because it's expected of you, that kind of depresses you after a while, and you can feel invisible because when companies do well, the big bosses get all the plaudits and everyone says, wow, that's amazing what you've done with your company, but it's never them that did everything. They might send some really good signals and they might be really good at leadership, but ultimately it's a picking of the right staff and the staff that do the big job. Often that doesn't get recognized by anybody outside the organization, and often inside the organization. And you're probably nodding as you hear this because you're feeling the same thing. All right, next up. So no growth plan. Number 4 is cul-de-sac positioning. So when you drive your car, if you drive your car, you might be on a scooter, or you might be walking, but you will have walked around, unless you live in a desert, in which case it's unlikely you've got internet, in which case you won't know that I'm talking right now. Anyway, have you ever driven a car or gone down what's called a cul-de-sac? It's one of those places where you go down a road and then the road is cordoned off at the end. So it's either got a wall or it's got, a lot of houses and a little roundabout that you come back out of it to go out. It's called a cul-de-sac. It's used really well for making real estate and making communities. But it's really difficult in your job if you find that you've gone down a path and there's no promotion out of it. You already paid as much as you can do, and if you don't want it, we'll get rid of you and put somebody else in it because some people don't have ambitions. Now, it might be you, but it's unlikely to be you because you're actually thinking now, well, actually, Dave, this is me, and it's not really fair. So it is you, but it's not you, and it won't be you by the time that we finish talking about all this stuff. So next up is this, number 5, minimal leadership training. Because you're not seen as senior management, senior leadership with the biggest impact, the odds are they don't tell you all the stuff that you need to have a bigger vision. They don't share with you where it's going apart from just a nominal thing that you can repeat to the troops. But the thing is, you're not the troops. I keep saying troops. You're not like the normal staff because you need to know what's going on above you so you can share it with the people below you, and so you can also talk to the people on either side of you. Makes it sound like in a football queue or something. It's not like that. It's like in an organization when it all comes together. Well, what this ultimately means is when we're not sharing information and we're not telling you what's going on, you kind of feel yourself, you're unskilled to be able to be promoted. So when new practices come out, like for instance, AI, how many people watching this, you might be, I'd love to know by the vote, actually. You can put it in the comment section. Have you been trained by your management, your senior management, your organization to capitalize on AI? The odds are the answer is no, for 2 reasons. First of all, the data, or the private data of your organization, they probably won't want it to be fed into AI, so they put a blanket ban across everywhere. Don't use AI because then they get to know our deepest, darkest secrets about our profit and loss and our plans and so on. But it also might be because they just don't want people to do a new version of their job. They want to keep them in silos that they've got used to, which is turning up, doing your job, going home. If you've got AI, you can speed stuff up. You can do it differently. Now, not every organization is like this, and most of them will end up changing, but there's a lot of resistance I find from too many organizations saying we don't use AI, we don't train our staff to do AI. So that would be an instant example for you of what I'm talking about. Extra skill sets. You don't need to know on the shop floor. Well, everybody needs to know. AI might replace them, but they've got no idea where it's coming. But you never know, there's a genius in your group who's learning stuff from their kid at school and can implement it in your organization, and you've not even thought about it. But it never happens like that. Senior management will get to know, and middle management, just get on with your job. It's okay. Does this resonate with you? But it does. Coffee. Yeah, sorry, if you're listening to the podcast, you're going, Dave, could you edit that bit out? I could do, but then I have to edit out the drink of the coffee, and it was very nice. Poor feedback loops is number 6. Basically, whenever you say something about this to a senior management, what happens? They go, okay, we'll take it on board, and they don't take it on board. Or maybe they do take it on board and they bring it up at one of the board meetings, and nobody makes a comment or a decision, so it just doesn't get fed back. So you go back and say, so what happened? Oh, nothing yet, but we're working on it. You feel there's a disconnect. You feel they don't care enough about the things that you really do care about, because you've got to turn around then to your staff and say, well, management are looking at it. Well, what's happened? Well, they've been looking at it for a couple of weeks and they promised to come back to us. Well, we haven't come back yet, have they? No. What makes you look stupid? Because you clearly have not got your finger on the pulse of what's going on upstairs, and you haven't got any persuasion or influence to be able to make them respond to you. Why do people respond? Because they're scared of the consequences and they want things to happen. If the senior management look like they don't care whether you say something or don't say something, or they don't really care if you change what it is that you've got, that will have a knock-on effect on you and also with your staff. Does that make sense? Cool. Number 7, increased pressure from all sides. And I've definitely noticed this. We talked about AI and the implementation. Supposing your company turns around and says, right, we're going to bring AI into the business. Well, who's going to get trained? Everyone's going to get trained, but you're going to get given the job of enforcing it to make sure that everybody's up to speed. Then you've got pressure from the guys upstairs saying, right, how's it all going? And then you've got challenges from the suppliers that are saying, I don't like your new system, it's really difficult. So you're stuck in the center talking to everybody, and everyone's putting pressure on you because you've got to make it perform. You have a central cog in the success of the company, so it's extra pressure, probably no cash, and this is happening on a regular basis, not just about AI, but lots of other things. As the competition gets fiercer and tougher, you find you have to deal with that too. Does that make sense? Of course it does. Right. Number 8 is this. Expanding responsibilities, which is kind of what I mentioned there, but you might find that you take on new divisions or you take on new staff all the time. And as this happens, it's a position that is really difficult to maintain because there's only so much of you to go around. When you start working at that level with new staff, new projects, new people, maybe there's the company takes on or another company, like a buyout. Well, everybody's got to raise their game. One of the easiest jobs to do is one where you don't have any decision making to do. You just turn up, get it done and go home. Doesn't usually pay well, but it doesn't usually stress you out too much, because that's the big problem here. You get stressed, frustrated, and you can burn out because you've got all these extra tasks to do and no extra help to make you do it. Oh, you'll be okay. Why do I think you'll be okay? Because you've never complained about anything before. Well, maybe there's a reason. Number 9 is fear of speaking up. You see, often when you are sharing what's going on below the management, below the senior management, you are the harbinger, or harbinger, depending on which is the correct one, of bad news. You know that phrase, don't shoot the messenger? Well, you are the messenger. You're the only person who's allowed to reach up and tell the bosses what's going on. And so it could be you've got a long litany of issues that the staff are going through and telling you about them. And every single member of staff that spends the time with you and tells you what's going on expects to get an answer, because you're the bridge to the senior management. Now, the senior management will guarantee not answer everything or not feel comfortable about implementing everything, because that's what they do. They have their own plan, their own vision. So it makes it really difficult for you to be able to turn around and say, this is what we're going to be doing, if you have no idea. And if you give wrong promises, then it ends up being your fault for lying on all levels. You lied when you told the guys upstairs that everything was fine. You lied to the guys below when you told them that you'd fix it. And you lied to the suppliers when you said, you keep spending money with us and keep doing business with us because we're fine. You're not fine, but you're at the center of it. But you're not in a position where you're treated like upper management, not B-suite, which makes you more frustrated. You speak up and you keep giving them grief about what they need to do, then they'll just get rid of you. You are the problem. This guy comes in every day complaining, but isn't he meant to handle that? Yes, he is. Well, why is he coming into the senior management office? I don't know. Well, can we have a word with him and then maybe see if we can get somebody else in? That's what you deal with. You probably know what I'm talking about. So the next one is this. Number 10 is the staff is your problem. Nobody else is to blame for what happens among the staff. But this is when it gets really tricky. When you're in charge of a staff and you have to decide what happens with everything from people getting wage rises to insubordination, to people being tired, work-life balance, somebody goes for a divorce, or computers are out working and need to send messages, whatever it is that's going on in your organization. While this is happening, You don't have any power. All you can do with most people is just listen to their problems, and hopefully that will make it go away. Well, remember, this is a world where people are on TikTok all the time, and they're on YouTube, and they're on LinkedIn, like we are right now, or TikTok. If they feel that they're not getting the right results, they might well name and shame you. But if they don't name and shame you, and they don't name and shame the company, they'll do something else. It's got to go somewhere, that level of frustration. It might be they just refuse to promote you or work with you. And even worse than that is if they don't tell you that's happening. So you think, well, they're a bit quiet, but they're not leaving or not heard anything, so maybe they're okay. People can leave and still go to work, but in their head, they don't even bother about it. They just carry on doing what they always did because they get away with it. It's a problem. Okay, and final thing here is no sense of purpose. Middle management often feel that their work is unrewarded and meaningless, and it's just unfruitful. Everybody needs to know why they go to work. Yeah, of course you pay them, and of course you give them some kind of like a culture and community to be part of it. I remember working for an organization ages ago, and I remember the owner of the company, you're gonna love this story. I'm not gonna tell you where it is. The owner of the company had a staff meeting, and all the staff was stood round in a circle, and he was sitting on a big chair like a throne. I'm not joking. So the staff actually in a semicircle, so he's facing out to everybody, and they can ask him any question after he's talked about what he wants to talk about. And somebody said, look, some of us have worked with you for 5 years. We've had no wage rises. We put in every hour we can. We really love what we do. We love working with you and for you, but wouldn't it be nice to get some recognition, at least a thank you or something like that? The answer blew me away. He said, you get paid. That should be enough. You get paid. Are you kidding me? So I went in for a job interview actually at that time. I was working with them and went away. They called me in for a job interview for a project. I stood there and I listened to this and I said, thank you very much. And I walked out and I never came back again. Because I thought, well, you can't grow an organization like that. You're never going to grow. It all comes from a top down. If the boss is horrible, then all the staff are going to be horrible as well. And everyone's going to blame everybody else because that's the culture of a company. So if you get no sense of purpose, no sense of the fact that you are valuable and valid to the group, then you're going to feel that I shouldn't be here. And people can vote with their feet. And they often do. So I hope this makes sense so far. What you're going to do is train them. Train your senior management, of course, but train the middle management. Now you're saying, but Dave, we don't want them to jump above their station because they're doing a really good job. You don't have to promote them. Just give them more skills, give them more reasons of why they go to work. So what kind of things are we talking about? I think it's really important we address this. Now, as always, if you're enjoying the show, I love the fact that you're here and joining us, which is great. If you love what it is I'm sharing with you and you're thinking, right, Dave, how can I get in contact with you? Well, very simply, I've got my program, which is a VIP mentoring program. So if you are a manager or a decision maker and you're saying, Dave, I've got a couple of issues I want to talk through with you. Can we do a session? Yes, you can. All you need to do is get this QR code. And it's actually www.speakonstage.com/VIP_mentoring. VIP_mentoring. So speakonstage.com VIP_mentoring. And what this is booking a one-to-one with me. So be able to work on all your stuff, whatever you need, wherever it is. And you can see the picture there. Everything from your signature revenue to speaking live to coaching to inspiring others and also being the best that you can be, making deals and so on. And we've got lots of strategies for doing that. The QR code is there. Otherwise, go to speakonstage.com/VIP_mentoring. QR code is there. And I won't go on about it much more than that, but I probably will. So I hope this makes sense to you so far and you get enough out of it. Let me know it in the comment section. It'd be very useful to find out how you're getting on with all this stuff. And also any questions, feel free to ask me, as per always. And I will respond. I always respond-ish. All right, so train them. Make them effective communicators. And these are skills that you can give everybody in the organization. It's not just senior leaders and senior managers. Middle managers are so desperate for these skills. Because everyone else gets to go on courses. They don't. They get a Behave Properly course once a year. And guess what they do? They just feel frustrated because they know they could be higher and they could be more respected and they could be paid more. But they know that they've They've done so well at their job that you don't feel that you can do anything else with them apart from leave them where they are. Because if you make them go bigger and better, then how are you going to fill that gap with the job that they were doing? And often it's not the pay that's missing. It's a seniority. It's a new business card. It's a new set of challenges. Not every organization realizes that because we've already established 6.25% actually go from middle management to be seen as B-suite. That's tiny. Okay, so we look at effective communication skills for leaders. And that means getting over imposter syndrome. I've talked about imposter syndrome many, many times. And this is what I do when I'm training people to get over imposter syndrome. It's that belief that you are not as good as you want to be. And everyone around you is telling you so. But you should ignore it. But you don't know how to because everything around you tells you. But imposter syndrome is... I think about 90% of people when surveyed have imposter syndrome, and so they just don't think they're going to be very good, so they just don't try and don't make the effort. But I promise you, it's really effective and you can do really well. So we covered that. That's one of the big problems is imposter syndrome. Then you've got to learn to negotiate and influence and persuade. Now, you've probably got really good skills at that, but not the level that you really need to be able to be promoted as a manager to a senior level or get really empowered and powerful things done. So when I talk about negotiation, I talk about the ability to work out so everybody feels that they've won. Influence, so when you say something, people get it. And then persuasion, changing things around, creating really good bargaining chips when you talk to people so they want to do business with you, creating trust, credibility, and a position of authority. Does that make sense to you? Good. And keep coming with the comments and questions, by the way. Always appreciated. All right, interpersonal communication, your ability to talk to anybody else, whatever level they are, just to make sure that they feel valued and they know that you are valued anyway. But it makes it feel much better. Next up is written communication. How much stuff gets sent by WhatsApp or email or internally in Slack or ClickUp? When you share these messages, and you might be on them all the time, every message is so loaded. They can either be spiteful, or they could be lovely, they could be inspiring, or they could be something that makes you feel depressed. When you know how to write properly, then it's much more effective to do all this kind of stuff. Yep, good. All right, next up, conflict resolution and difficult conversations. This is your wheelhouse. This is something you have to deal with all the time. Conflicts between staff, conflicts with suppliers, and also those difficult conversations you have to have, like we're going to be letting you go, or maybe we have to cut the budget, so everyone's going to take a pay drop, or we can lose some people. But those kind of challenges that you get on a daily basis and you become really good at, we're going to be able to train you to be even better, so you get exactly what you want from all those things. Next up, team communication and motivation. It's not a small thing to be able to lead your team into battle. Again, going back to the troops idea in the army, but effectively at work you are kind of doing the same kind of thing. Cheers, by the way. Oh, cheers, big ears is what I used to say when I was younger. I didn't have big ears. In fact, I didn't know anybody had really big ears. Oh, Ian had massive ears. Yeah. We used to call him Dumbo, but never to his face because he's a big guy, and said that if you put a feather in his cap like Dumbo, he'd fly home. Yes, it was cruel. Kids are cruel. It's all right. Team communication, motivation. You need to be able to get your team to be motivated and do it collectively so they feel that there's something really special amongst that group and we want to stay there forever. If you're not doing that, you're leaving yourself wide open for somebody else to swoop in and take your most motivated people who just don't feel motivated by you or the organization and take that motivation and use it somewhere else for themselves. Often it's a client or it's a company that's in contrast and competition to you. So they're most likely to swoop down, take somebody who's great for their organization, who was doing a great job for you, but you didn't say thank you enough times. All right. Crisis and change communication. Of course, when you're a senior leader, you get trained in this because you have to do really high-level negotiations. But that doesn't mean that filters all the way down to the bottom of the food chain in an organization. The middle managers, they don't get given those skills. They don't get taught how to deal with crises because they're not often outside world facing. It's all internal, but the questions and the answers are still as essential as would be in any other organization. Cross-departmental and functional communication, sharing who you are, what you do, and the latest news across different departments. If you don't do that, and you don't share it, then everyone becomes siloed, and they do their own thing, and there's no way of being able to tell whether things work or not, because nobody will tell you, because it's none of your business. You probably experienced that, where people say it's none of your business, and they're in the same business, in the same company, being paid by the same people, but there's just no communication. Presentation skills, and I'm not talking about being a presenter necessarily. I do lots of big presenting. In fact, if you haven't seen the stuff I do stuff like this. Now, I'm not expecting you as a senior manager or a middle manager to have to go out and do hypno shows and talk on big stages or do rugby sevens and that kind of thing. Unless you want to, in which case we'll have a different conversation. Cheers. Look, it's early. I love coffee. What can I say? Okay, you're watching this later in the day. It's not early for you, but when I'm doing this, it's for me. Coffee is in my lifeblood. Keeps it going all the way through. Does it, Dave? Is it really in your blood? No, it's in my tummy. Look, stop. So presentation skills is what we're talking about. The importance of having those abilities to talk to one-to-one and create a great relationship in a safe space and get complete transparency. Or to a small group of people. You don't have to be going out to thousands or hundreds or even 30 people. And the odds are that you're talking about maybe 8 people maximum when you have a conversation amongst your group. But the ability to do that takes a lot of skill and a lot of stuff that most people don't know how to do. Next up, dealing with really difficult conversations. Often you find that staff have got problems at home and they're not really sure how to deal with it. You've got to take them to one side because you know it's going to affect the work at some point. But you also have to be seen as a confidant or a friend. Are you crossing the line? Well, maybe, but you're there every day. If you can't optimize what they do at work, you're going to get blamed because it's not the level that you've got to have coming out of them. So sometimes you have to, or sometimes it just leans in. You see a member of staff upset or crying or depressed or not chatting, you go over and find out what's happened, and that's it. And you sometimes have to turn around to staff and deal with the people who have been laid off. Difficult conversations. Or stepping up their game or warning. These are things that you don't know necessarily how to do. Experience has taught you to a certain level, but maybe you've never had to lay staff off and sack them. It's really difficult to be able to get your head around all the steps without getting into a really upsetting situation. Next up is this. Cultural sensitivity and inclusion. Again, this is something that you probably haven't been trained to deal with. You've got a whole diverse workforce and you're playing it by ear. You watch the news, you watch TV, you go on TikTok, you read magazines and newspapers. You're pretty cool. You know more or less what's going on, but you don't know the best practices because it's not often that people tell you those things. You need to know exactly how to get the best out of your team and make them feel that they're included, whoever they are. Then you got, as I mentioned, problem solving and decision making. You have to turn around and say, I need this to happen. And you need this to happen on a smaller scale than where the organization is going. But put this into perspective, right? You take a country, for instance, whether you want America or the UK or UAE or anything like that. About 80% of every country is a really small entrepreneur. Somebody who owns their own company and their name is on the door, virtual door. So these companies have maybe less than 100 people working for them. Sometimes it's a sole practitioner, sometimes it's a small team. Not the big corporates. 20% is the big corporates and they make lots of money most of the time. But the big problem is 80% of the revenue and the power of the country comes from that 80% of the small workforce. So when you embrace AI, a big organization has to do lots of research and lots of change and memos and blah, blah, blah. A small organization can say, right, we're going to take it on tomorrow. What do we need to know? Right, we get somebody in, oh, I'll learn it myself. And they pivot very easily like a boat that's turning. A small boat can turn very quickly, but something like the size of a tanker full of oil has to start turning miles in advance to be able to make sure that as it goes along, it's able to make that transition. So that's why it's so important to be able to have great decision-making skills with your management, your middle management. You already know this anyway, but it's not often seen properly. It gets overlooked by the guys upstairs. Communicating on hiring, onboarding, and letting go. We've talked about this before because the thing is you're the person who actually turns around and lets people go. You're the person that brings them in, teaches them, these are the people you work with, this is your desk, and this is the stuff that you do. Doesn't mean it's easy. Trial and error. You've been at a company for a long time. You've worked with other organizations as well. But it doesn't mean that you're up to best practices. The amount of time I've seen organizations get sued because this wasn't done properly by the middle management. The big leaders don't see all the staff the same way, but middle management dropped the ball when somebody was upset, and because people don't leave organizations, they leave their manager. So if you're not dealing with the people properly, they will blame you and blame the whole organization as you. So at some point that you feel empowered, that you can say things and get help, or that you feel that you can answer things on behalf of the organization. Because if you don't feel that, all you're going to go is, I don't know. And after a while, people just vote with their feet, or even worse, they go online and say horrible things, and they usually name you in it as well. All right. How to network effectively. I love these cups, by the way. We've got one of these Jersey cup. I thought it was a ridiculous cup. My wife got me one, and she said, look, that's for you. And I went, but it's massive. It's ridiculous. But I love it. Oh, my goodness. I keep it all the time full of cold water. It's fantastic. And I take it all back, all the criticism, like, what am I going to do with that? You're not getting it back. I am keeping that. It's fantastic. If you haven't got one, ask for Christmas, ask for your birthday, ask for Eid, ask some, or just buy it yourself if nobody's going to do it. It's worth having it. All right. How to network effectively. You need to be able to go out and represent your organization. You need to be able to talk to other people who are like you, so you can get a community, even if it's just an unofficial community with people you can talk to who are almost like your HR department. But the good thing is they're not actually part of your organization. Sometimes in big organizations, you've got to have allies, friends, people who can let steam off with confidence in different departments. That's all important. But if you don't know how to network, which is a skill, then you're never going to know how to do it effectively. Simple things like when you network with somebody and you want somebody to help you, you have to vet them. You have to know, first of all, whether they are available to help you, whether they're incentivized to help you, whether they want to help anybody, whether they have the time, whether they feel that is an equal exchange between you. If you're going to network with them and believe that they're going to be part of your community and going to start leaning on them to help you, you got to know that it's both ways. If you haven't got that, it's just a contact. It's not the same thing. So there's a lot more to networking than you might necessarily know. Also, how to increase sales and close deals. That might seem like, well, we're not in sales, I'm in middle management. Everybody's selling all the time. Doesn't matter. When you pick up a phone, you're representing the organization. And when you're going out and talking to people, you need to be able to have the process in your mind of how to close a deal. And that means that once you've trained yourself, once you've learned how to do it, you can train your staff, and they're also able to do it. Go out there and sell and create better communities and better suppliers. Even if you're not forward-facing, customer-facing, B2B, it still works, the ability to have these skills, because at least then you can talk to people who are driven by sales and understand the lingo, as opposed to just going to work and getting paid. I don't think there's many people who just see that as the only reason to work for any particular organization. So next up is this. What do you do? I'm not going to spend too long on this because we've talked a lot, but leadership communication touch points, there's vast amounts of them. I'll go through them very quickly. Into personal communication, written communication, conflict resolution and difficult conversations. We've already been through this. Team communication and motivation. Negotiation and influence and persuasion, crisis and change management, cross-departmental and cross-functional communication, presentation skills for small groups or one-to-ones, dealing with difficult conversations, always very important, cultural sensitivity and inclusion, problem solving and decision making communication, communication in hiring, onboarding and letting go, and how to network effectively. These are some of the things, as well as how to increase sales and close deals. These are all essential skills that any middle manager needs to have, and if they haven't got them, they're going to feel frustrated, and they're also going to be in a position where they can't really talk to anybody about it, because if nobody's paid attention so far, the odds are they're not paying attention in the future when you turn around and say, I'm going to leave because of this. They're going to go, oh, well, why didn't you say something? Well, you weren't listening. Does that sound familiar? Okay. Any questions you have, feel free to contact me. I'd love to know. You message me directly on any platform that I'm on, or you can go to the normal channels. So I'm on virtually all the, I don't think I'm on TikTok. I probably am on TikTok. But on LinkedIn, it's very easy to get access to me. Or go to my website, Speak on Stage, and do it there. Or any questions, put it into the comment section of where you're watching this video, or listen to the comments on your audio device. And I'll get back to you and I'll answer everything. Even if the broadcast is already finished, I do go back and check the comments and messages that I said, and I get back to everybody. All right then. So do you want me to train your team? Are you ready? Whichever country you're in, doesn't matter. You don't have to be in the UAE or Dubai. I can still come out and do it and help you. I can even help you online. I do that for many people too. So if you want me to train your team, what happens? Well, we need to talk. Message me. I can help. It's true. That's what I do. Okay, so If you want to work together directly, then let me share this with you. And I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to make it look bigger like that. Okay, that's the industry icon program about creating a legacy. It's all the skill sets that you need. But with this one, it's slightly different from everything else in the fact that we will work with you on the challenges that you are facing. So you might say to me, Dave, I want to be better at speaking. Or I want to be better at mentoring. I want to be better at closing deals. I want to be better at getting on with members of staff. I want to be able to read things and interpret it better. I need to be able to write articles. Whatever it is, VIP mentoring means that we work together. I give you all the clues and all the stuff that you need. And why would you go to me and not go to a member of staff? Well, sometimes you want things to seem like you've created them, as opposed to, please, can I get some help? And then you're on a queue and I got to wait ages for this. Let me give an example, and it's an example that's from a movie as opposed to actually something that's happened in your organization. At least I hope it hasn't happened in your organization. There's a movie that was made in the 70s called Deliverance, starring Burt Reynolds, Jon Voight, and Ned Beatty. And it's set in America. These three guys decide that they're going to go on a camping trip and live in the endurance world and go out hunting and fishing and, live and drinking and enjoying just being men together. And they get hunted by rednecks. And so they go deep into the forest and they get chased, and these guys want to kill them and do horrible things to them. In fact, one stage actually do horrible things to them. And so Burt Reynolds is the main character. He's macho. Burt Reynolds was brilliant, by the way. Not related to Ryan Reynolds, but he was probably the most macho of his generation. Really funny, but a really cool guy, and also could play the hard man. But he mixed it all together and was the biggest star in the world for many, many years. Won an Oscar, I think, Boogie Nights. Maybe, not sure. So anyway, Burt Reynolds is the main character. But there's a thing that happens to him in the movie where he gets injured so badly that he can't be the leader anymore. And Jon Voight's character, who is the accountant type, has to take over. Now, what happens is he gets incapacitated, that's Burt Reynolds, and Jon Voight steps up and then defends the team and gets them to safety. Or I'm not going to spoil the movie, you have to watch it yourself. It's a really good movie. Deliverance, it's called. So the director took Burt Reynolds, the man, not the actor in this particular scene, to one side. And he said, I've been editing the movie and I have to cut a scene out. And it was a massive scene where Burt Reynolds' injured character does an Oscar-winning performance suggesting to Jon Voight, I'm injured, you have to take over now, this is all on you. But it's one of those scenes where you go, that won him the Oscar. So he took out the Oscar-winning scene. Why? Because it was really important for the development of the movie that Jon Voight's character stepped up without help. It didn't feel right in the looking at the overall storytelling for him only to do it because he got permission from Burt Reynolds' character. Does that make sense to you? So Burt Reynolds missed out on his Oscar for that. The movie became a huge hit, and nobody but the actors and the editors and producers, and of course the director, knows that there was a better scene that could have been inserted, but it just wasn't there. So sometimes you want to be able to go back to your organization and say, I've got these skills, I've got this stuff, or maybe you want to create a side hustle, maybe you want to have a business that runs alongside it, maybe you want to create your brand, maybe you want to speak more effectively, maybe you want to create a network of people around you, maybe you want to do some deals that brings you more money, more success, more happiness. Well, I can help you with that. All you need to do is go to www.speakonstage.com/VIP_mentoring. Okay, and there's a QR code here if you're watching the video version of it. And then we'll set up a session for you and I to work together. And if you want to treat yourself for Christmas and New Year and give yourself something that makes everyone go, wow, you're fantastic, this is a way to do it. And it really be useful for you. Train your team. This is how we do it as well. Oh, look at that. Green screen. I'll tell you how it works. So training your team. All you need to do is go to this QR code and set up a meeting with me about how to look after your team. It's a Calendly link that will get you to be able to work with me directly, at least talk to me directly. And you can go to www.speakonstage.com/get-trained-by-Dave. That minus is a dash, by the way, a minus sign. That's why I put it there. www.speakonstage.com. I'll start again, there's too many dots. www.speakonstage.com/ get-trained minus buy minus Dave. So that's all the things you've got to do to be able to get access to working with me. So simple, Dave. Never thought of that before. Well, I did, and that's why I shared it with you. And that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you got a lot out of it. As I mentioned, there's a big challenge for middle management right now. I feel for anybody who's having problems with that. I've got communities, I've got programs, or maybe I could work with you directly if you're finding yourself frustrated and you are a middle manager and you're wondering, Dave, this has been going on for far too long. What do I do next? Book a session with me. Let's go through it. Let's see what we can do. Especially as life is getting tougher. Here's the thing, right? If you're middle management, you've got a really essential job in any organization, but you never know when AI will come in and either empower a supervisor to be able to have the skill sets and stuff that you do, or the organization will just go, we've been here too long. Let's just cut a lot of our workforce and streamline it, because that's the direction that many things are going. You need to be able to step up and raise your game. Maybe you need to know AI and how you can use that as well, just on the stuff that you do, not necessarily for the whole organization, but just for you. All right, so that's it for today's show. I hope you got a lot out of it. It's been a pleasure spending quality time with you. Remember to get hold of this. The Thought Leaders Playbook, that's available for you. If you want to know how to get it, I'll show you the QR code one more time. No, in fact, I'm not going to do it. You have to go back through the actual... No, here it is. Look, that's it. Okay? www.bit.ly/Thought Leaders Playbook. That's my book, available for all people online at Amazon. You can buy it for yourself, buy it for your family, buy it for your boss, buy it for your team, or just have it as a really good Christmas gift for somebody who's starting their own business as an entrepreneur. I guarantee it will change their lives, and that's what it was designed to do. That's it for me. As I mentioned earlier, have an amazing time. Love to know your thoughts, and make sure you subscribe. And if you want to work with me or get me to speak on your stages, then it's a great way to do it. Just contact me now. And if you're saying, well, Dave, what do you do? How can I show people what it is that you do really, really well? I'm going to leave you with the intro to me on stage. Look at this. Massive ego. Not really. This is what I do. Thank you for tuning into another insightful episode of Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and packed with valuable insights to help you to amplify your presence on stage too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more aspiring speakers just like yourself. Remember, the stage is your platform to shine, and with the right tools and mindset, you can captivate any audience, anywhere. So keep honing your craft, refining your message, and never shy away from the spotlight. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of public speaking and performance. Until then, keep speaking, keep shining, and keep making an impact. This is Dave Crane signing off. See you next time on Speak on Stage.